Okay, when we last left off, we had our image and our logo in, and so all that's left to do is the type and then export it. So let's go at what we need to do. So step 6 is to set the book name and author. So either you can use the title that came with the image. So my Bulldog image has a title Tommy Atkins, 1905. So you can use that if you want. Or you can make up your own title. And I want you to put the author's name, so you can make that up or use your own name if you want. But before we put that in there, let me talk to you about margin. So this document was set up with a 1/2 inch margin. You can see that reddish purple line there. Once we have a margin, we want to set our logo and our type and everything into that. So if you want to modify it, you can go to margins and columns, set this aside, and you can see I could take that margin a little bit more narrow. If you really want to use the full size of the book, the most you want is a 0.25 margin. You get any closer to the edge than that and it doesn't really work. But I myself like a nice hefty margin, so I'm going to put it at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to click on the type tool and I'm going to make a type box that goes to exactly that margin. And my title is Dogs of War. So there's a lot of ways that I can size this. I can go over here to my properties panel and just keep clicking up, or I can use the shortcut that I told you about, which is Shift Command on a Mac or Shift Control on a PC, and then the greater than symbol. And when I do that, it has basically the same effect. So I've kind of made it to the width. You can stack it, so I could do dogs and then of war on the next line. So now I'm going to keep styling this. I'm going to highlight it. I can go bigger now. And remember, if you use your properties panel or the Essentials Classic, you'll see all of these specifications right there in front of you. So right now this is 82 point, and the leading, the space between the lines, you can see that that's got parentheses around it. That means that it's adding a little bit of leading to the size as you go along. You can see it keeps adding. And now my box is too small for that type and it disappeared. So we can actually tighten the leading up by clicking downward on the arrow. Just keep in mind that this will not adjust anymore. It's going to stay at that number. So I also want to center this type. So with the text highlighted, you have to highlight the text to affect the color of it. I'm going to change this to white for now, just so I can see it better. And the other thing I might want to do is make this capitalized. So you can do that easily without retyping it by just looking here at the properties panel, putting it in all caps. I also want to tighten up the space between the letters, so I can affect that right here. That's the tracking. So I'm going to bring that in a little bit tighter. And then let's look for a typeface. And for now, we're just going to look within InDesign, whatever typefaces you have loaded. So there's one that I found that I like. I will save you the search for it. I wanted something kind of old-fashioned because this is an old photo. And I found this in Veta, which kind of has the look that I want, but I don't want bold. I think medium is good. Now I've got some more room, so I'm going to make this larger with my shortcut. Remember, I just have to keep it within that margin, like that. And what I could do also is take the of, take it out of caps, and maybe make it italic. And then right in between the F and the W, you can see it's too tight. So I'm going to just leave my cursor there. And this right here puts spacing in between letters. So you can see I can just click that. The other thing I could do is make of smaller. So I could make it so maybe it goes below that W. Perfect. Now I don't have to move them apart too much more. Okay, so I've got my Dogs of War. Now I want to set this on the margin. There it is sitting on the margin, and we'll make sure it's centered by going down here and hitting center align. I can also change the color. Maybe I want this to be kind of a green. I don't know if I want it that green, maybe a softer green. Yeah, not that green. So I'm going to highlight that. And what I can do is just double click here in the toolbox. Do you see how the type shows up as green? Double click on the color of the type and you'll get this color picker. Take this down right, maybe like that, just a little bit of green in it. There we go. And remember our preview button, just hit the W. Then you have a better way of looking at things, how they're coming out. So I could make this a little bit bigger. I could grab all the type, all the different sizes, and just make my type box big enough to hold it. There we go. And I could keep sizing that now. That's probably about as big as I want it. And then we need to put an author's name. So who wrote this book? So the easiest way to do that is to copy this. So I'm going to hold the Option or Alt key while I drag this down. If you hold the Shift key, it'll keep it centered also. And then you can just put the name. So I'm going to just make up James Irving. And it's still in all caps. And so I can make that, maybe that's white. And much smaller, so again I'll use my shortcut, Shift Command or Control, and go smaller, smaller. I want to go so I can get it all on one line. So I could either put that down here above the logo, or I could put it above the type. Again, we want to center this, so go down to the Align panel, and then maybe the title comes below that. Let me make this type box nice and small to fit that type. Bring that down a little bit. Perfect. And now I have the author, and I can even track that out a little bit because it's smaller type, so it looks kind of squished. Make that tracking -10. The bigger the type size, the more tracking you want to go negative. You want to take tracking out because it gets kind of big and spaced out. Okay, so James Irving is about the width of that. Maybe I could even take a little bit of letting out of there, make it nice and tight. Now our logo is outside the margin, so we want to make sure that sets in there also. Okay, so if you look, you can see the type is setting on the top margin, the logo is setting on the bottom margin, the photo is centered, and the resolution is more than 150. It is, in this case, 170. And that's it. That's what I'm looking for. So the next thing we need to do is save our document. And I want you to get in the habit of using a naming convention. So I'm going to put my last name and then SHORPY. And that's your saved file. Then I want you to export your book design as a JPEG. So we're going to go to Export. And this is a rasterized file. So the format, you can see it might be on PDF for print or EPS. You want to put it on JPEG using that same naming convention. And this is where you adjust the resolution, which is the important part. I want it to be 72 ppi. If you made this higher, like 300, this would be a huge file. So we don't want a huge file because we're putting it on a discussion. So just 72 ppi, and then export. And then I want you to insert this JPEG into the discussion. And the way you do that is you click on reply for the main one. Make sure you don't reply to another student's post. You want to reply to my assignment at the very top. And then you're going to go to image, not link, image, upload image, and then you're going to click on the one that we just made, the JPEG. Say submit. There it is. And then you hit reply. So that will post the cover of your book. And then the only other thing that I want you to do is I want you to put some feedback on other students. And this is good not only for them but for you. We need to learn to discuss design and what to look for. So I've made some points here that you can use as content, talking about the spacing, the type, the image, things like that. Okay, really helpful for everyone involved. Good luck, guys. Can't wait to see what you come up with.